everyone, and welcome to the Road to the Power 50. Bit of an unusual Road to the Power 50 this time. We're going to do something a little different. I think you will all notice here that I've got Ben Blaschke, Managing Editor of IAG, with us, and Scott Messenger, Chief of Staff of IAG. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Andrew.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
All right, you're in Sydney, I'm in Melbourne, and Scott, you're there holding the fort in Macau.
As always.
Yes, and many of you may know, but some of you may not, that Scott joined us in Q1 this year. So he's been with us for, I guess, 6 months or so, or a little under, although a long-time follower of IAG. How's it been going, Scott?
It's going terrific, Andrew. Ben, good to see you as always. It's been a great ride, Andrew. I mean, it's far exceeded my expectations. I've been a longtime follower of IAG, as you mentioned, but I had no idea of exactly just how much effort goes into this enterprise every day.
You had no idea of all the paddling under the water the duck does.
It's absolutely been terrific. Great team.
Very good. So everyone, what we're going to do, this is a Road to the Power 50 session. We decided to do something a little different this time and talk about the Power 50 from our point of view, from IAG's point of view, a bit of the history of the Power 50, how it came to be, the importance we see it has in the industry, and a few other little bits and pieces as well. So I guess we start with the history of the Power 50. A lot of people think that I founded IAG. In fact, I did not. I founded WGM, and then we acquired IAG. The long-termers of you in the industry will remember Kareem Jalal. He founded IAG in 2005. And then promptly began the Power 50 in 2008, I suppose. It wasn't that prompt. It took him 3 years, but seems like a long time ago now, 2008. So Kareem and his crew prepared the Power 50 for 8 years, from 2008 through 2015 inclusive. We acquired IAG and brought it into the oOh!media stable of companies in 2015. And so, Ben, you and I got to work on the Power 50 for the first time ever in 2016. So we've now done it for 8 years, 16 through 23 inclusive. So we've now matched Kareem's record. He's done 8 and we've done 8. And we're about to do the 9th in 2024. So I guess we've become the dominant partner from this year. So we've inherited that. And I guess some people say, it's a dangerous thing to do, the Power 50, to rank the 50 most important people in the Asian gaming industry in order of importance. It's quite risky, but it's not something we decided to do. It's something we inherited. And then once we got it, we thought, well, it doesn't look very good if we get rid of it. What can we do? The best thing we can do is make it as accurate as possible. Ben, some words from you about how you felt at that time, or when 8 years ago, you'd only been managing editor for IAG for not too long, and then we embarked upon that journey. How did it feel for you the first time we did the Power 50 back in 2016?
I don't think I had a full grasp of how much time and effort would go into putting the list together each year. I do remember you and I, Andrew, spending quite a bit of time that very first year just trying to figure out how we were going to put together an accurate list. What were the criteria we were going to use to determine in some sort of accurate form who were these 50 most influential people in the industry. And I think we know that process now after many years, but that first year that we did it together, I remember we spent a lot of time figuring out what are the criteria, how do we implement that, what are the adjustments we make, what do we need to take into account in doing so. So I remember that first year, it was probably a very, very long process, in particular going through all of those steps before even starting to implement those criteria into the actual list itself.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I was very conscious of was, IAG, frankly, probably wasn't as strong a business as it is today. And I was very conscious of how dangerous, from a business point of view, it was listing people, especially, anointing somebody as number one, thinking, almost having a little bit of lack of confidence of, really, is it up to us to do this? Are we the right forum to be doing this? I think now it's pretty clear that we are, but back then it was a little bit of, we're a bit tenuous about that. And do we have the right to anoint somebody the most powerful person in the gaming industry? And then to list them all really was dangerous. And I think my own personal response to that was, well, the lesser of two evils is to keep it rather than to get rid of it. And if you are going to keep it, the answer is to be as accurate as possible, to basically come up with a list that nobody could really say, oh, you've rigged that, or you've favored your friends, or you've favored your customers, or something like that, where we really went, well, people look at the list and go, well, yeah, I can't really argue with that. I think accuracy was a really big deal to us back then, as it is today. It's still really, really important to us. I mean, without revealing too much of the secret sauce, Ben, you want to talk a little bit about the judging process and how we sort of go through and what we decided to do? I mean, that was the first year, wasn't it? Or maybe it was the next year, I can't remember, where we brought in the point score, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of the key things that we look at are the size of the company that the person is involved with is important. Obviously, if we're looking at some of the biggest companies in industry, such as Galaxy or Sands, they're, very many multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're by nature going to be considered more influential than, someone that runs a small, a slots parlor somewhere, or a boutique casino somewhere. And then, of course, one of the key things we look at is what real power does each individual person hold within that company? Are they the owner? Are they the CEO? Are they, the person put in charge of the casino, but realistically, they've got a parent company with 3 people that have real control? I mean, everybody's got a different level of real power within an organization. So, we go through that with every single person. And, when you've got companies that have multiple influential executives, that becomes quite complicated at times. So, that's one thing that we look at and spend a lot of time every single year making sure that we think we've got that balance of power right.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we could probably even bring up a couple of little examples. Like, you look at a company like Sands, you've got people in Las Vegas that are really at the top of the tree of Sands. They're the ultimate decision makers, but they're not on the ground. And so that creates a real, head scratcher on, do you go with someone like Wilfred Wong, Dr. Wong, who's running the company on the ground, or now Grant Chum? Or do you look at people like Rob Goldstein, Patrick Dumont, obviously Mr. Adelson when he was around? How do you make that decision between those people?
I'll add on top of that too, Andrew. Sands is a great example, because if we look at Robert Goldstein and Patrick Dumont in Vegas, they do also oversee Marina Bay Sands, though, which of course Dr. Wong and Grant Chum don't, but then Paul Town is at Marina Bay Sands. So, all of these factors come into play when figuring out the relative balance across an entire organization like that.
Absolutely. And it's also the Asian gaming Power 50. So what about things outside of Asia? I mean, they have, when they had Venetian, obviously they've sold that to Apollo now, but I'm sure they will have a property in, be it, New York or Texas or wherever it's going to be. How much do you count that? You probably don't, because it's not part of Asia, but yet it informs their background and so forth. So it creates all sorts of dilemmas. Anyway, we won't go into those in too much detail. And I guess we should, I mean, maybe Scott, I could ask you, is when you only just joined the company this year, but you've been involved in the industry for decades. I mean, how did you perceive the Power 50 as an outsider? I mean, at first we were like, oh, it's a little bit of, fun, but it's sort of become more serious over the years.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And, and I'm not here basically to be a cheerleader for IAG. But, over the years, when I've been fortunate enough to attend several of the Power 50 events. And what I always liked about it was I was impressed by not only the level of the production, but frankly, the balance, of the significance of the actual honors that were being bestowed, and an atmosphere of, camaraderie and everything with it, other members of the industry, and I'm just talking about the event. I mean, you mentioned before whether or not you had the convening authority to be the host of these events. But, who else but IAG, frankly, could have done this over time? And I think, the proof has been in the pudding, over the course of the last 8 years of your tenure of running the event, that who else but IAG could be the convening authority for the Power 50. Much like anybody else, I anxiously look forward to each of the run-ups to the Power 50 each year. I followed it, in IAG, and the business breakfast, and the website, and the special areas dedicated to Power 50. And certainly at the event itself, it was always a great experience. Whether it's being held here in Macau, or we're upcoming now at Solar Resort North, Quezon City, a brand new resort, spectacular resort in the Philippines. But it's a terrific thing to just be part of. From the inside looking out, I had no idea necessarily of the entire process that went into pulling it off. It's not an exaggeration to say is that as soon as you're concluding of the Power 50 that's upcoming in November, on 8th of November in Quezon City, the planning is already starting for the next Power 50 that will be taking place, in 2025. The convening of the judging panel, the criteria, everything that goes into that. And on top of that, you add into the mix, the activities of the sales and marketing team, the events team that's responsible for pulling it all together from a logistical standpoint. And, without, belaboring the point, you're right. I've been around for decades. I've had my hand being part of the team of many, many large scale events, in Macau, Singapore, Las Vegas. And, the efforts of the small IAG team here, it's truly impressive to me. I mean, they're clearly punching above their weight, and I'm grateful to be able to be part of it this year.
Well, it's very true. We do get straight into it immediately after the event every November. We're straight into it for the next year, and people probably don't see that. And you bring up an interesting point: the difference between there's two parts to the Power 50. There's the list itself. There's the judging of the list, and there was a list long before there was an event. The event's only been in the last 8 years. The list has been this would be the 17th year. The first 10 years of the list was just a list with no event, and then we brought an event in. So the event's been going for almost 7 years now, I guess. But that event, every year we learn and grow. So we've got two parts. We've got the creation of the list itself, and we've got the event. The event side, we've got the events team, the whole team at IAG, which is, as you say, is not a big team, creating sort of a world-class, high-level event that some of the other companies might have 50 or 60 people on an event like that, and we somehow managed to pull it together with a very small team, and they're working on that year round. I know in the last couple of weeks or so, the whole IAG team all gets like a football team with everybody on the ball, all runs over to do that, no matter what department they're in. But the list itself, I think, is very interesting as well. How we do that in the judging panel. We have a small but highly credentialed judging panel. Ben and I are both, on that, and then there's a bunch of other independent people as well. I think I would also like to mention about the continuity, the fact in 2022, when the pandemic made it's such that we were definitely not going to be able to do an event in Macau, and we managed to pull one off in 2020 at the Parisian. We managed to do 2021 at Wynn Palace, which was a great event, and I'll forever be grateful to Wynn Palace for the fantastic event they put on at the height of the pandemic in Macau in 2021. It was just awesome what Wynn Palace did for us that year. Not to minimize what anybody else has done any other year, but that was just a really difficult year. And then when 2022 rolled around, we were screwed, to be frank. There was no way that event was going to be in Macau, and we really did not want that event. We didn't want the break in continuity for all those years, and I'll forever be grateful to Lawrence Ho. I remember calling up Jeff Andres at City of Dreams Manila and saying, "Hey, we're in a real pickle here. We need a venue," and it was only a few months to go, and he said, "Let me make a phone call." He was obviously calling Lawrence, and he called me back 5 minutes later and says, Lawrence says yes, and I'll be forever grateful to Lawrence for doing that. And doing that in the Philippines in 2022 at City of Dreams, was it perfect? Probably not, but it was still very good event. We were very happy with it, and we actually got it done. So, and that showed us we could do it outside of Macau. And now we're alternating between Macau and Manila. And that's what's led 2023. We went back to Macau for MGM. 2024, now we've got Solaire North. So, this is a real experiment, I guess, doing it at Solaire North. First of all, doing it in Manila, but not even doing it at Entertainment City, but doing it at Solaire North. I mean, that's quite a risk, quite an adventurous decision to do that. I mean, Ben, you've spent a bit of time up there at Solaire North now, as have I, since it opened a few months ago. Your thoughts on doing it up there?
I'm really looking forward to it, Andrew. It's a bit different, and just spending. I mean, as I said, I think I was there for 4 nights recently up at Solaire Resort North, and I really enjoyed being on the property. It's a beautiful property. I'm really impressed by the restaurants and the food, and I enjoyed walking around, and the Filipino hospitality. I think it's going to be. I think people who make the effort to come to Quezon City, I think it's going to be worth the effort for them. I think they're really going to be impressed and enjoy the event. And I've got no doubt that that Solaire there will put on a wonderful event for us as well. So I think that the facilities are perfect for the event, and I think people will have a very good time.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, from my vantage point, Andrew, this is straight out of your guys' playbook. Every year you look to do something different, to surprise and delight, our colleagues. It's something new that adds to the event overall. And this is a spectacular new property. And then it's completely logical that you guys would do it this way.
Well, it's the hot new property in Asia. I mean, it really is surprisingly good for a place. I mean, Quezon City, let's be frank, is an outlier kind of area of Manila, but yet it is a big population center. It's a very clever move by Enrique Rizon to open a second property in Manila. I mean, he's got that Jeju Sun in Jeju that hasn't gone that well. He had a little bit of a dabble in Japan. We all know what happened there. Well, why not open in your own backyard in a place where you're already well established and the market for your second property? And that property Solaire North is going to do infinitely better than a property in another country where perhaps Bloomsbury wouldn't have the local knowledge on the ground. So I'm very impressed with it. It's Solaire standard all the way through. They got a few bugs to iron out, as any new property does, but they'll be ironed out by November for sure. And I think every new property that opens has a few bugs. That's normal. We've all been through many property openings over the last 20 years, but it looks great. I mean, that sculpture in the middle, nobody could say their ballroom is not a high standard ballroom. I was there at the opening weekend. They had a magnificent event there. So I think the standard of the lighting, the sound, the entertainment, the actual event itself will be no worse and could even be better than some of the previous events we've had in Macau.
And really, Andrew, the only thing I'm looking forward to more than the Power 50 is the after party, which should be pretty spectacular too.
The after party will be very good upstairs in the Sky Bar or Sky Lounge. Oops, I should know that. But 38th floor anyway, and there's an outdoor area looking out all over the city of Manila, Metro Manila at night. It's going to be fantastic after party, and the whole night's going to be on the one property. You won't have to leave the property. So before, during, and after will all be there, and there'll be special accommodation packages for people visiting the Power 50 as well that they're putting together, that Solaire's putting together for us. Those haven't been announced yet, but they will be. So Friday, November the 8th, if you're watching and you're on the fence on whether to come or not, please do, because it's going to be a great night. I think could well be our best Power 50 yet. Yep. All right, well, that's it. That's a little discussion for us, a little bit about the history of the Power 50 and where it's going to be and why it's going to be. And, don't discount the importance of the Power 50. I mean, one other thing actually I didn't bring up, though I meant to bring up, was I was talking to a very senior executive who is in the Power 50 and pretty high in the Power 50 too. And he was saying to me, when I first came to Macau, he came from another industry and joined our industry. Said the first thing that I did was I grabbed the Power 50 from the previous year, sat down and read it cover to cover, just to get who's who in the zoo. So it really is a great I know how many words is it, Ben? God, must be something ferocious. What are they all? 500 and 200 and 400, aren't they, or something?
Yeah, I think for the print magazine that we obviously do each November. I mean, a normal issue of IAG is anywhere from 8 to 10,000 words. Well, this is comfortably double. I think last year we were pushing 25,000 words in that
Yeah.
issue.
Wow.
And a lot of it is, the bios of each person
Yeah,
and
very good detailed bios that you and the rest of the team put together on everybody, realistic bios. And I think it's very accurate. And I think the point score thing is very accurate, and it's an exciting thing for our industry. Mr. Adelson was number one for 6 years. I think Francis has been number one the last 5, hasn't he?
sounds right.
I think I'm pretty sure it's 5. So if he can be number one this year, he'll equal Mr. Adelson's record-breaking run. There's only ever been 4 number ones, hasn't there? The two of them plus KT Lim 1 year early, and then the very first year was Stanley Ho. So let's see. But the industry's changing. I mean, there's definitely movement at the top. So let's see how that plays out.
That's right.
Anyway, so look, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the Power 50.
Yep, we'll see you all on Friday, November the 8th, 6:30 to 7:30 for the cocktails, 7:30 to 9:45-ish for the dinner, and then 10 till late in the night for the after party. Get yourself one of those special packages at Solaire North at the hotel rooms and make a weekend of it on Friday the 8th through, and come to the Power 50 and we'll see you then. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Scott. And we'll see you next time on IAG. Bye for now.
Take care.